Let's talk about the Joint Commission and the role a Joint Commission plays in reviewing a hospital's performance.
Thank you. Mr. Hunter.
Good afternoon, Dr. Walker. Good afternoon, Mr. Hunter.
I thought you said you didn't have a report.
I don't know, sir. You're not
listening.
Perhaps I'm not being clear today. I do not have access to the 2018 report.
That sound was Hunter's soul leaving his body.
I thought I buried this Dracula several years ago.
But you have an opinion to a reasonable management probability that the failure of the medical executive committee to address this caused or contributed to the harm of Mike Kowalski.
Objections beyond scope.
You can answer.
Thank you. I do believe that this failure on the part of the governing body contributed.
And this particular individual happens to also be remarkably charismatic and have phenomenal hair to combine with my, I guess, phenomenal beard.
At 2, Rob, you're going to jump on the good hair stuff too? Really?
Dude, why not? I mean, I can't keep this thing in order.
Thank you for that. And speaking of looking fabulous, coming to the program right now, Dr. Joe Corcoran, who we have also labeled here as Dr. Good Hair. How are you?
I'm great. Can you?
Well, good evening, advocates and addicts. I know there's quite a number of you who came over from Recovery Addict today, and I am thrilled to have so many people joining us today for what I have been very excited about having this conversation. So thank you for being here. Welcome aboard. In honor of our guest, I pulled out the loudest Tommy Bahama shirt I could find, and I'm sure that when we bring Paul to the audience, I'm sure his choice of apparel will be up to the challenge. So, hey, just wanted to give a shout out to Scott and Rob and Megan who made it into the intro. That is something new that the graphic artist genius known as Sally provided to me over the weekend. And Sally, you are remarkable, and I'm really grateful for your help and trying to make things look a little bit more professional, a little bit less out of the trunk of my car. So thank you for that. Really appreciate your help, and you did a great job with that video editing. And I also just want to say congratulations to our new friend, your new friend, my longstanding friend, Fred Nice, who probably is at least starting to wind down his celebration after his Chiefs won the Super Bowl in overtime in a game that honestly I didn't think that they had a shot at. So congratulations to Fred and all Chiefs fans everywhere. It was, I got to be honest with you, it was the game was better than I expected, and the commercials were nowhere near as good as I had hoped. So we could probably spend an entire live stream talking about that, but I won't go there. Instead, I am super excited about introducing you to what I hope will be a different side of Paul Langell, who has been fairly or unfairly reduced to being called Juror 1. And I will tell you that I had the opportunity to sit down with Paul at our favorite breakfast place a couple of weeks ago. And I learned so much more about the man behind the nickname. And that's who I really want you to meet today. He's a really terrific guy. And I think you'll agree with me. So I'm happy to bring Paul and his wife Yoli to the community of advocates. Welcome aboard, guys.
Greetings.
Hello. Good. Good evening.
We are happy to have you. I know you were busy this weekend. Full disclosure, Yoli, I hope you don't mind me sharing this with the audience, but I got a photograph of Yoli and Paul wearing matching shirts, which featured their faces, their photographs on them. I gotta be honest with you, it wasn't the best looking kid I've ever seen parents hang out with, but
We love them anyway.
that dude was a little homely. I don't know if I'm making fun. They were actually posing with a seal over their shoulders, so or a sea lion. I don't know which.
Sea lion.
Sea lion. Fair enough. Fair. I got to be honest with you. The two of you live a very unrestricted life, and I love that. Yeah, you guys constantly spend time together doing neat stuff. So maybe that's one of the things we'll get to talk about now.
Happy.
There you go. So, Paul, I think everybody here knows you as Juror 1. Yoli, they know you as Hippo Lover. With your permission, I'd like to give them a little bit of a glimpse of the people that are behind those nicknames. Really kind of give them a glimpse of the couple that committed to a very long trial last fall. And I don't know that anybody expected to be in this position after agreeing to serve on jury duty, but here we are. So, Paul, if you could you just kind of give the group, give the community a little bit of background about who you are and how we got here?
I was born in a hospital. No.
Danger.
I was born, grew up, went to schools in the city of Hialeah, Florida, which is outside of Miami, Florida, Dade County, Florida. And went to Roman Catholic. I'm a Roman Catholic in my bringing up. So it was a whole family. I was the youngest of 4 total children. We're all about 2.5 to 3 years apart. So next, I was the youngest. I had an older sister. She has passed away. Her name was Sonia. And then about 6 years older than me or so, or 5, is my brother Frank. He still lives down Calle Ocho in Miami area. And then I have my older brother William, or Billy as he's known, and he has since passed away. He was the oldest. So there's 2 of us surviving. Both my parents have passed away.
Sorry.
But we visit them down there in Our Lady of Lake Cemetery in Dade County. I went to Roman Catholic school, so I was taught by nuns the first 8 years of my life. Rulers and Bibles with your arms stretched out. Although I never had any of that happen to me.
I'm sure.
I'm sure.
None of us got away scot-free. Trust me.
Yeah. And I was in the choir, was an altar boy, stuff like that. I used to even work at the church after hours when I was in like 7th and 8th grade, cleaning the rice up off of the church floor after the weddings and stuff like that. And then I went to high school. Believe it or not, I did pass and go to high school. And that was where as well, Monsignor Edward Pace High School.
Indeed.
In Opelika, Florida is where
my alma mater as well.
Yep. Loved it there. Taught by the Marist brothers.
Yep.
And I believe they're still there from what I understand. Yep. And that was my education. I went to Miami-Dade Community College for a while. Excellent. Maybe be an accountant. I don't know. I thought, or mortuary science, because I always walked by the old hearse which was an old horse-drawn buggy. And I said, God, that looks neat, you know. But
That's
did it.
giving you some career, your career some serious thought, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
And
And
then,
excuse me, Paul, I did just want to pull this up for Yoli. Amanda was passing along a note for Yoli. She should come to Cincinnati and meet our town mascot, Fiona the hippo. She's a celebrity here too. But I also happen to know that you are well familiar with Fiona.
That's correct. We actually were there last year for our anniversary. So we got to meet Fiona, Fritz, BB, and Tucker. We know them all.
There
And
you go.
and the tattoos were done in Cincinnati.
I love it.
So yes.
I love it.
that's the one I couldn't see. What at the thing, because it's got the date on there. So
Well,
I knew now I know it's 2016.
Yes. He will never forget it.
December
and thank goodness
22nd.
you got the year right, Paul. There were an awful
Yeah.
lot of people who were nervous for you when you that was the only time that I saw you sweat through this entire process.
Didn't know I was going to have a quiz, but
Yeah, right. Hey, and I do just want to recognize that Kurt from Uncivil Law is here. I know that Scott from Recovery Addict was in the crowd a little earlier. I don't know if he's able to hang out, but you've got some of the giants of the LawTube community here for you two guys.
Hey, Kurt.
greetings.
So
Greetings all.
Greetings,
let me
everyone.
ask you kind of, in my mind, the big question. So you got a summons for jury duty. You showed up because it was your duty. You made it through the process to get seated for the trial. You showed up every single day. Your testimony on the 3rd of January indicated that you did everything that the judge asked you to do, the way he asked you to do it. You reached your verdict. You've taken a lot of slings and arrows. I can't think of another juror who has been through what you've been through, and they dragged your better half into it as well. So let me ask you the big question in my mind is, given all the stuff that came along with it, Paul, would you do it again?
Yes, I certainly would.
Why?
And, I may seem like the mild-mannered juror, but when somebody, I'll always be nice and kind. I'll hold the door open for other people, young or old, that type thing. Let them cross toward the building side. I'll walk on the side and pass on the street traffic side. It's just the way I was brought up, but I always had that. It's nice to be nice, it does your heart well. And so I do it because I think they were especially the defense, I'll call it, were especially sharp. It's not like y'all know my opinion of what they really are. I mean, they're just not nice people,
Let's keep this safe for work.
Yeah. But I do it again because I was glad to do it, and I think I was able to read the information given to us, or me, give it weight, how it was presented and by who, just like how the judge describes. And that's how I've been most of my life. And I think I was always like that before I was an officer or not. I think it's not the officer that made me like that. I was like that. So that's why I worked smoothly as an officer. And I was able to weigh things and, what the testimony was, how it was presented by that person, And it was great. I was able to delve in further by asking a question, which was news to me. I never even knew that was possible, type thing, to ask questions of the witnesses. But yes, I would definitely do it again. I'd love to.
When did you find out that you would be allowed to ask questions?
I believe it was when we all went into the jury box out in the courtroom, and the Judge Carroll actually gave us a whole verbal list. He read it. We had a copy of it. And that's, I believe, when it was like, wow, we can ask. He said we could.
Yeah.
And then, that was just like, wow, that's weird type thing.
And how different? I'm trying to look up who submitted this question because I thought it was a terrific question. How it was not that Mickey. How would you have been affected as a juror if you had not been allowed to ask questions?
I think asking the questions allowed me to delve into the witness presenting the information more. So if I wasn't allowed to, I see, because sometimes it did help me trust or give more weight to a testimony. And in other instances, it made me think, I'm not going to consider that as heavily. So I would say if I couldn't ask the questions, it would have been harder to reach a verdict.
Oh, interesting.
I myself wouldn't have had the kind of information I needed to feel confident in a certain position of what the witness was testifying.
Sure. And so there were several questions we're kind of theorizing about which questions were yours. But everyone has an understanding that you did ask a fair number of questions, but you weren't the only one by a long stretch. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. I believe after when they published all the questions, I think probably about a month after or so. And we kind of tallied through them, and no, I'd say probably 6 to 8 of us kind of had a lot of questions. And so it wasn't just like me alone, but everyone had some question about something. And a lot of my questions or someone else's were kind of flowing similarly. So I could tell when the question was asked, it was, oh, someone else here is thinking what I'm thinking.
It was very, I will tell you that when I testified for the first time, I was unaware that the jury was going to be asking questions. I will tell you that I was very impressed with the quality and the sophistication of the questions that were coming from the jury box. Considering really you were just 12 people from the bus bench, right? Y'all ask great questions.
Literally. Yeah. Well, if you like the questions you got and they probably weren't from me then.
Fair enough. But you said that your ability to ask questions helped you reach a verdict. I know that it wasn't unanimous when you first walked into the room, but was it? It seems like the majority were leaning in that direction, and it was really kind of more of a matter of how big a lean.
Uh, that would be a good way to phrase it. Yeah. In
Okay.
other words, back there,
Yeah.
we wanted to make sure we also had not just, it wasn't just, oh, I felt like this, I feel this. We kind of got in a rhythm where we would run something up the flagpole, is a saying I have, see
Hmm.
who salutes it,
Yeah.
and then if there were people that were kind of or blah, blah, and even if we all salute, we wanted the backing for it. So
Yeah.
we'd all look through our notes. We'd all go to the
The push
trolleys,
cart. Yeah.
the push carts, that two of them, two shelves full of binders. I mean, it was like outrageous. But luckily, the ones that everything that was presented or allowed as to be presented in court and
Hmm.
we knew about were separated into
Yeah.
different boxes. And
Yeah.
we'd find out where it was.
Hmm.
So it wasn't, I think I remember something. No, I think I remember, and I have it here. So it was either, I'm not saying how we deliberated, but
Hmm. Sure.
we all kind of had something in our notes that what is it, dear?
Collaborated.
That word, what she said. Uh,
Thank you,
and
Yoli.
then would find it in the actual documentation. So, I take offense to where we were some jury that was, off the rails or something.
Yeah.
And that's why it took a while. We just didn't say, oh, the poor thing, or oh no, they this, or no, they did good, but it was thought out. We went through everything question by question. We discussed it, and that's how, and then we arrived at our verdicts. It was
You know,
no little 30 minutes, and then for 2 days we just wanted to have Tommy John's for dinner and lunch.
you,
No,
you
not
know,
like that.
Paul, it doesn't seem like it should be so far-fetched that what you're telling me is that the jury relied on evidence, not feelings. And
Correct.
that's pretty profound. It's a
Yeah,
very smart way to approach the.
if it wasn't on paper,
Yeah.
then it wasn't more solidified. It wasn't,
Yeah.
there. So no,
Yeah.
we relied heavily on everything that was said by every witness.
Hmm. And corroboration is something that you probably studied a lot in the police academy before you started your career in Hialeah PD.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So how much did your training in law enforcement help prepare you to be on a jury where, this case was very complex, very complicated, a lot of contradictory testimony. You sorted through a heck of a lot of data and information. How much did your background as a law enforcement officer help prepare you for that?
I think quite tremendously. As in, it's not that I don't believe what people tell me. I'm skeptical, be a little softer term,
Yeah.
or trust but verify, as Ronald Reagan, I believe, has famously said.
I've got a hat with that on top of it.
You gotta, and as an officer, you gotta listen to both sides. You go in feeling like what you think happened, especially after a couple years of doing it and running into people. But you have to always listen to the other side, because you might find a little tidbit there too, or a lot, that doesn't quite fit what the other side is presenting. In court, it's usually one side is, sugar plums dancing and fairies, and the other side is, a great demon.
Yeah.
But that's natural. You have to just blend them and see what's what. And the questions afterwards sometimes would really clarify that.
Mm-hmm.
And whether, especially like a witness knew what they were talking about,
Yeah.
or if a witness rehearsed or read and you throw a question in it and it's like,
Yeah.
it just, they can't do it. They start dancing around, like a hippo in a skirt. It just doesn't work that way.
And of course, Kurt has to bring on the lawyer's question about discussing the case with a hippo. But I believe that Judge Carroll asked and answered that question for us. So how did you get chosen as the jury foreperson?
As soon as the other, I guess it was 7, because one had already left the day before, the other alternates, which we all,
Mm-hmm.
I had a feeling you can't have 12 people all, and then you have to have backups during a trial. So
Sure,
I had a
sure.
feeling that they're going to chop some of us. I didn't know how many and who, but once they left, we felt like we lost part of the family, because we
I'll
had been
bet.
together so many weeks. We went back, and my recollection is they said, okay, we got to pick someone. He said, I'll pick Paul as the foreman. I think 3 people just right away. So I figured, must not be something people want to do type thing. But
it's because you're so shy and retiring.
Yeah. But and that was it. And then everyone said, yeah, I said, well, it's you guys vote on it and do, or whoever wants to put their name in, to the hat. But it was me. So that's how it came about.
There you go. Yeah. So when you got the jury notice, probably end of July, early August of last summer, most of us think about getting called for jury duty. And number one, if we make the cut, we expect that we're probably going to be there for a single day or maybe 2 or 3 days, maybe a week if it's a long trial. When did you start to get a sense that this was going to be time to pack a lunch, maybe even pack a suitcase? That this was going to be a long trial?
I believe it was during the initial interview with Judge Carroll and the lawyers, when each individual person would be seated. Or maybe it was before that, when we were all in the, not the council chambers, the bigger auditorium where they'd have their meetings with all the city council and stuff like that.
Got it.
And it didn't faze me much. I mean, okay, well, that's good, because I had never been on a trial before. So to me that must be regular. Or maybe I'm here for several different, like I'm here for 2 months or 9.
Yeah.
And then, I see different cases and stuff like that. So, but that's when it was. It was I think it was that same day, because the same day we were in the council chambers, I'll call it, is when I was the first one to be picked and go through questioning.
Yeah. And so you learned early on, day 1, day 2, that this was going to be a long process. Got it. And did you have any insight into how complex the nature was going to be? Because again, it was a very complicated trial.
Not at all. Trying to remember. I believe on that first day, It wasn't even mentioned who, I believe, that it was Kowalski's versus JHACH or anything like that. They just asked those same questions that everyone filled out and then asked a little more deeply. But I can't remember. I think it wasn't until we were selected that we were, and then actually one of the jurors that were selected, one of the 12, that we were told about what the case was.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. And there was, I don't know if it was an alternate or a seated juror, but somebody there had a nursing background, perhaps?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
You could tell by kind of questions and stuff like that. But yes, there was one that did have a hospital background of some sort.
Yeah. There were a lot of interesting questions about documentation and requirements and things like that. Somebody clearly had spent some time at a hospital, and I don't know who that was, but again, I was very impressed with the quality and the sophistication of the questions that came from the jury box. Very impressed.
I had went to some schooling for coding. So somebody else, when they'd ask those questions, was more in depth, and I have worked with, coding and stuff like that. So I had a little thing about diagnoses and that I heard. But there was someone, asking about how many milliliters or how much, and so that had to be somebody definitely with on the floor medical type of
But
background.
I think that's also probably something that brought a lot of it cast a very broad net for the jury, right? I mean, you brought 6 to 12 different perspectives to the analysis, to the discussion. Well, not discussion. There were only 6 for the discussion, but from what I understand, and we talked about this at breakfast the other day, when Judge Carroll sent you back for deliberation, I know that everybody walked into the room as a blank slate, as you were instructed to do. But it seemed like it took you maybe the second day, maybe the third day, to reach a consensus on how you were going to rule. And then I believe you went line by line through all 44 juror questions. Do I have that right?
Yes, we went in. I was selected, and they gave me the actual paperwork for the verdicts, and so what we did first is just I read through them so that we know what we were going to think of. So we read the whole thing, and anyone who wanted to look at the paper, because sometimes it's kind of wordy. There was a couple times that the gentleman next to me, I'd give it to him and say, "Could you read that?" Of course, I hope I'm not blowing anything. That only the foreman's supposed to do that or read it. But everyone had the freedom, and sometimes a couple of the ladies on the other side of the table, because it's easier to understand something if you actually read it yourself, rather, or they'd read it out loud to so we could hear it. So we did that at first, and then we went back to number 1 and basically started, okay, blah, 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 this is what we have. And then we deliberate. And from there, we did, yes, oh, no, oh, maybe. And then try to find the evidence. Well, I've got this. No, but I have this. I took like 10, 12 tablets of notes. And even that, I probably could have took more.
12 of these.
But you could still miss so much type, so that's why everyone compared what they had wrote, because it would all fill in things.
I believe
I'd
that
say about,
there's
by the next day we had our penciled in with a sticky note.
yeah.
Yeses, nos, maybes, and so forth.
Yeah, your group of jurors took so many notes that I believe that there's a small stand of trees in Venice that gave up their livelihood to create the paper for you guys. That's it was really remarkable to see, you know, as when I was on the stand testifying, I was really kind of focused right on, you know, the attorneys, what was immediately in front of me. But, you know, as I was waiting to go on and what have you, I was, and I did spend a full day in the courtroom 2 days prior to testimony, just to kind of, I'd never been there before, and I wanted to kind of feel the room. It was remarkable how, I mean, it was almost like you were taking a class, the whole group of you. Jules just put into the chat that I think you went through 54 notepads. But honestly, it looked like it was a college course that everybody was just writing down their notes pretty vigorously.
Well, note taking, I believe, while we were deliberating, mentioned it was great because it also kept you awake. As in, you know, you were interactive with it. You know, it's you weren't just listening and nodding off, and you know, you were actually, oh, write that down. Oh, you know, so it kept us on our toes.
Yeah.
The note taking as well, and asking the questions, you know, because you listen more when you know you can ask someone more about it. Like, you
For
know,
sure.
at school, you listen, teacher, you know, so here you could ask and get some answers maybe.
But you weren't allowed to discuss it until deliberation. So was that frustrating?
Yeah, I know it was for me. It was like, even though you have to form your own opinion and you have to this and yet, but then I guess being that half of us went, they wouldn't want us to have their feelings or what their observations. But, you know, we let it all out that first day type thing. Oh, so-and-so. Oh, do you remember so-and-so? And then as we start looking at our notes, yeah, they said this. Yeah. You know, and so I don't know exactly why they don't let juries really talk together when they're in the back. I'm sure there's a good reason, or is it just something old? That might be a good question for a lawyer. Is it just
There you
part
go.
of the old days?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, I'd like to, if it's okay with you, I'd like to pull up for a couple of minutes and just get to some of the questions that have been raised, if that's okay.
absolutely.
All right. So bus stop person number 27, I'm so happy that Paul is on the show today with his wife, Yoli. Thank you both for being here. Charlie Lynn, once again, gifting memberships. Thank you so much. That's become a regular thing for Charlie Lynn. She's, and I'll tell you, a lot of the folks who, you know, I see words of thanks going out to Charlie Lynn and others who gift memberships all the time. It's very, very kind of you. And Kidada, congratulations, happy 2-month anniversary. I have some questions that were submitted in the last 24 hours, and a couple of them are pretty interesting. This one's actually for Yoli, Hippo Lover. Although I'm trying to call you Yoli, I'm trying to get rid of your. I'm trying to treat you as a whole person rather than a caricature. But which channel and which platform did you enjoy the most? Since you've apparently been on a couple of different social media platforms.
So when I work, I have a big TV in my office, and I was to watch the trial. I was actually started with a long crime, but their chat was just crazy, and someone in the chat mentioned recovery addict. So that's where I went to watch it during the day. And then somebody in the recovery addict chat mentioned Rob. So then I was like, oh, but I didn't even find a lot of this till like middle of trial because you have to like really listen to the chat. I really enjoyed watching Scott because he would comment, and I liked that he could read. He couldn't put what was on Zoom, but he could kind of read the questions, so that was kind of neat. I really enjoyed watching that, and he just had his community is just a really neat community. And then Rob, I always like to listen to his take, and Kurt I like too because he would have a different take, and it's neat to see people, all the different, oh yeah, well, I didn't think about that. And Kurt would always kind of teach the law as well. So I love learning. So he had a neat take. So those were the three primarily that I would really listen to.
Yeah, I had never heard of LawTube before. And I've shared this before. And I understand Scott's here. Recovery Addict is here. Scott, welcome. Glad to have you in the room
Scott.
today. Scott is an incredible guy. He's been remarkably generous with his tutoring of me, teaching me especially the technical side. And he made one heck of a bunkie when he came down for the December hearing. Stayed with us. And Scott, I do have to tell you that he was talking about how beautiful it was when he was driving over the causeway and he could see the lights of downtown Sarasota in his rearview mirror. And I will tell you, I've been over that bridge easily a couple hundred times, and I never noticed it until after he said something. But Scott, thanks to you, my eyes were opened. I saw it in my rearview mirror, and I agree with you. It is absolutely breathtaking coming out of downtown. So, but I think that, as I said, I had never heard of the LawTube community before, but it's absolutely fascinating how, there are so many people that hang on so many different trials, twists, turns, and really develop some great insights. And some share them like Rob did. And Rob ended up with an entire channel coming out of it. So, it was it's a really fascinating part of the community. Marianne brings up a really great point. And Paul, this kind of goes back to your role in the jury. Curious about Paul's thoughts when Greg Anderson did not cross-examine Dr. Tepa Sanchez, who had a fairly active role in Maya's stay. She was surprised that Greg didn't ask any questions, but then the jury asked maybe all the same questions that you would have expected Greg and or Nick to ask.
I say, correct. Yes. In other words, that's why it was so good we could ask questions, because sometimes we were left hanging.
Mm-hmm.
And I know on a few different occasions as the trial went on, it was interesting. We'd ask our jury questions, and then when Mr. Anderson would come up, as well as Shapiro or Hunter came up, they would readdress the answers from our questions, as in, like, if it was Shapiro, so and so did, but you did say that they this, but you did that, correct? Oh yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
Or vice versa. Mr. Anderson would come up. Now I want to blah blah that you this, but you didn't write that in your that, or you didn't say that during your depo. So in other words, it almost got to where there was a plaintiff, a defense attorneys, and then there was like a neutral set of attorney, 12 neutral attorneys.
Bus stop attorney.
Yeah, asking and then oh shoot, let's key in on that. So many times it wasn't like we asked a question and then the defense and the plaintiffs would rest.
Yeah.
It's almost near the, as we got better with asking questions and more familiar with how far we could go. And then sometimes we couldn't go that far because then you'll see they were stricken by Judge Carroll or, not agreed to by one or both the attorneys. So it was kind of interesting that we would spark something that one of the other attorney groups didn't think of that we thought was important.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we asked it, they had to cover it and dispel or confirm what we 12 were interested in. So, it was very dynamic, very, good.
Well, I think the jury did a remarkable job of deciphering a lot of conflicting testimony about very complicated topics. But I would really be remiss if I didn't ask about maybe the jury's most impactful moment, the orange hair on Halloween.
No, not that. What hit us the hardest or made us sit up and take note is what you're asking?
I know specifically that somebody had asked how who came up with the orange hair? Whose idea was that?
I'll plead the fifth on that one. Thank you. No.
Fair enough. I will tell you.
I've done that before. I mean,
we had a Halloween party to go to anyway, so.
Fair enough.
And I'm kind of like, that's how I don't mind. I know everyone else laughs at me.
Yeah.
So I might as well make myself laugh at myself or give them a good chuckle. And my jury attire basically was like Cuban guayaberas. I looked like a dentist. They were blue. They were, with the pocket here and a pocket here. It's a Miami Domino Park thing.
For sure.
My slacks were basically all the same style. What are they, dear? They had the pockets, Hanes or whatever, just different colors. But that one day, it was Halloween. So I had a Halloween black shirt with little pumpkins on it, right? Is that what it was? And then, we were going to go to a place called like Show Folks for the circus people. And so I, dyed my hair white and then with, stuff from the party store. And the other jurors were like, oh my God, they're going to kick you out. I tried, but no, so thank God, Judge Carroll was a good sport. Otherwise,
I will tell you that I will tell you that Patty and I had several conversations about if I could spray my hair and do tips. Again, this is in your honor, sir.
Yeah.
I thought if I could do this in your honor, I'd really be showing my full respect. So
what you got to do is just get the got to be. They make the styling gel that's like concrete. You'd look good with it up in the middle, like a circus guy we know, Johnny Rocket, and then spray it.
I love it.
Like
I think I would end up looking more like Bella Knock than anybody else.
Oh, okay. Yeah, true. Okay, yeah.
Now, Yoli, you have actually worked in the circuses as well, right?
My daughter walked a high wire when she was 9 to 11 years old, and we traveled everywhere, Canada, across the U.S., and even into Hong Kong.
Wow.
For 3 years, we traveled, yes.
Wow. What was that like?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I homeschooled her, and I mean, we got to go to places that people usually don't get to go. I mean,
for sure.
who goes to Hong Kong and does a circus on Christmas Day, which is really strange because it's a communist country.
Yeah.
But no, it made us very close together, and we met a lot of really interesting people. So it was quite an adventure. And she now travels and does her own thing. She's 25 now.
Yeah.
And she's a free spirit, and I love to see what she does because she's not tied down.
Yeah, and for those in the audience that don't live in Sarasota and the Gulf Coast of Florida, there actually are a lot of active and retired circus folks and team members, the folks that hang the rigging, the folks that drive the trucks. But it's home to Nick Wallenda, who he's been on a few TV shows in the last half dozen years. Yeah. And you mentioned show folks, which is basically it's the Elks Club for everyone who
Circus.
Yeah. It's like the VFW hall for those who have done service in the circus, right?
Absolutely. And the folks there are about just as old too. No, no.
Except when the two of you roll in.
Yeah. Yoli doesn't give herself enough credit. She just didn't homeschool our daughter, or back then I wasn't part of it, but a lot of the other circus kids that were growing up, they all went through the program and stuff like that. And now these kids are, in
their 20s,
in their mid-20s type thing, and walking the high wires themselves or doing stuff. And, so it's a nice, close-knit community that I've been welcomed into. So I'm thankful for that.
I practiced in Sarasota for 15 years, and I remember that one of the scrub techs that worked in the operating room at Doctor's Hospital, she was a contortionist who then went to school and learned this new trade in the operating room. But her brother was one of the original strongmen with Cirque du Soleil. Her brothers, plural. So, and again, the Ringlings, John Ringling was one of the early kind of big deals in Sarasota and helped really kind of put it on the map back in the 20s. But it's incredible how important the circus history is to this town that everybody just kind of discovered during COVID as having some of the most wonderful beaches on the planet. So I think it's really cool that you've got a part of that in your DNA, Yoli.
Oh, well, thank you.
And Paul,
I tried to be a contortionist, but let's not go there.
Yeah.
I'm more of the human cannonball.
I am happy to let that one slide by. So I do want to share with you one question in particular. Says, first off, thank you. This is from Ben's mama. First off, Paul, thank you for your service as an officer and as a juror. You and your wife are both awesome. I'll tell you what was remarkable, since I mentioned that you would be a guest on the live stream, the love that has come forward from this group for the two of you. Paul, you obviously served a vital role in the community by saying yes to jury duty, and not really knowing until you got there that this was going to be this was not going to be a traffic citation. And Yoli, you really kind of gave up your home life for the better part of 2 months to allow this to, work the system the right way. Neither one of you could have been prepared for the aftermath. And we won't get into whether it was fair or whether it was right or, because I think everybody here feels like you got smacked around. But that had to have been so difficult. How did you kind of maintain your balance? And how did, Paul, your testimony on the 3rd of January was so remarkable because you were so calm about it. You know, honestly, I think at least half of the members of the audience right now would have felt that you would have been justified walking out or screaming at somebody. It was a tough day. I was there. How did you do it?
It didn't faze me, as in, you know, I've been questioned a lot through my police career. You know, I know all this, and I know they were just looking. I was the first best option for JHACH to get things thrown out, and that's why they made the water so muddy, even though they didn't have in my opinion, a leg to stand on. It was all conjecture. I was saying, learning, you know, from all the YouTubes or law tubes. Oh, why don't the judge should ask for just cause, I think is the phrase. In other words, oh, you say he's did this and this. Where's the evidence?
Yeah.
Or what do you know, I got to smell an iota of something. I've got
a scintilla of odor.
A scintilla. Okay, that's it. And
that's better than 3 billy goats and a maggot.
Spaghetti on the wall,
yeah,
trying to see what sticks. But it was too far. I mean, you know, going into past, going into things that I had nothing to do with that were in Yoli's life and stuff. You know, and they wanted to get under my skin and make me, you know, maybe have a lawsuit against them or something. And then, you know, that would open up everything. You know, no, I won't say I welcomed it, but I was welcome to, or grateful I could defend myself. And they say, oh, do you want to blur out your face? Do you want to be behind a screen? You know, no, I'm here. If you really want to know who I am, all you need to do is type, you know, in this day and age, you don't have to go down to the county courthouse in another state. You just Google it and keep on searching. So that didn't faze me as that. And I, you know, no, I did not. Yes, I did listen. And that's how it was. So I had I feared only that it might somehow get out of hand and then affect the verdicts for the Kowalskis. Me, you know, I was like second. So I was glad kind of that it happened and I was able to straighten it out, and Judge Carroll hit the gavel and on we go. And now they're trying their other shenanigans type thing. And that's how it is. Now, but Yoli, she has a whole different story.
Yeah, when we're going to get there in a moment, but I just want to share a comment from Analytical Blarney AB. And it's really on point to what you were just describing. Analytical Blarney wants to know, how do I become as cool as you? Asking for a friend.
You need to have a wife like Yoli, because she is my, you know, behind every great man is a greater woman type thing.
Yeah.
That and a frying pan is what does it.
Right.
No, you know, I always say, oh man, I wish we met when we were in our 20s. We probably would have never even looked at each other in our 20s, you know. But now, you know, for the past 11 years, I got that right. You know, we're kind of like, oh, we know that. We not know it, but okay, I'm not going to let that bother me. And, you know, and so we enjoy ourselves, things we do. We enjoy our friends. We, you know, got places to go see, you know, so we kind of like enjoy life now. It's almost like we're, you know, at a retirement park where it's always Taco Tuesday and Donut Wednesday and Ice Cream Thursday. And I love it, you know. Or cinnamon bun from your place. That's
Amen.
great.
Yeah, they're we pull all the calories out of before we serve them, though.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. You
I'll
you
get
can
my
believe
own.
that all you want. Yeah.
I
And
order it and then, oh, can I have the frosting on the sides?
yeah,
And then I just eat that straight.
with a straw. Understood. And you know, Yoli, I know that your reaction to all of the, you know, Paul's words, shenanigans that have gone on. I know that your reaction is a little bit more higher energy. Can we say?
Well, I think we just have very different personalities, which is why we work. And he really, truly, it'll be fine. He really was not worried at all. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, oh no, this is serious. And you know, this could throw out the trial. And they had me thinking that I did something wrong. And that just really affected me because, you know, Paul kept saying, you didn't do nothing wrong, don't worry. And I felt like I, you know, it was very emotional. I think Jules, when she described it, it was very similar to my feeling. It's like, oh, you know, it just, I second guessed everything. And Paul's like, don't worry. So I'm glad he was there because he was very strong for me. He would just say, just don't worry about it. Let's go do something. You know, it was Thanksgiving when all this hit. We were visiting family and it was, you know, emotional. And he was like, no, just put it aside. Let's go do something. And so I'm very thankful that he had that attitude to help me get through that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing those stories because SN Gray 11 actually asked, how did they handle the social media bullies and the JHACH defense attorneys after the trial? I mean, I've never seen a juror and a spouse attacked that way.
Right.
I in my experience, limited as it is, that was unprecedented. How did you guys?
Your community, like your show, Rob's show, the whole community, the support was also extremely awesome for us. I mean, that really helped us out a lot too. I mean, we would feel like, oh, or at least I would. And then I would watch the show and watch what people said, watch what the law tubers were saying. And I'm like, okay, I feel better.
Yeah.
Because you're hearing it from someone that knows the law, you know, it just helped a lot. So, and thanks to you, the community and everyone, that was another big part of it.
Yeah, that's very kind of it. But this community is unbelievable. I mean, I had a tough January, and this group helped me get through it. Lost two folks that were close to me, and this group helped out. The empathy, the love, the support, the willingness to just extend a hand and offer kind words and thoughts and prayers. I've never seen a community like this anywhere on YouTube or any other social media group. It's really phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Here for the truth. We love you back. Thank you for that. It says, "Oh, we love you guys." It was interesting, Yoli, that you said that you and Paul really turned to one another to get you through all this noise that came in from outside. It seems to me, and I don't know you well. You and I have never met in person. We've talked on the phone. We've talked in this venue. Paul and I had breakfast at the restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and that was the first time that I'd met him, other than knowing that he was the guy sitting right there, as Judge Carroll said, 5 feet away for most of the trial. But I have a sense that the two of you, and you've been together about 10 years, and you've been married about 8 years, coming up on 8 years, if I remember your tattoo properly. It just seems like the two of you have a really terrific relationship in terms of the way that you rely on one another and the way that you take care of one another. But you also act like teenagers, which I absolutely respect the hell out of, right? May I let the audience know about your trip to Jacksonville, what you arranged in Jacksonville? Yeah. So I just want to share this with the group. So with Yoli's history in the circus, she and Paul arranged for the Kowalski family, along with members of the Anderson and Whitney families, to have a VIP experience at the circus. And I will tell you, the feedback that I heard from them was pretty remarkable. They had a great time, and you guys made that possible for them. So thank you. I really appreciate you doing that.
Our pleasure. Of course, you were welcome, but you had other
I did
obligations, so that's fine. But it was a little hot in that tent because PAC was, But otherwise, no. We like groups. We like spreading fun times.
Yeah.
Even with our local friends, if it's close to a holiday or just for no reason, like to get together at a local. What's one of our favorite ones? What's the one we meet, like Joe and Will Mad? The one down there. What is it? The one I like.
I don't
They
know.
had the schnitzel and stuff.
Like the grandpa's shit. Oh, Stella's. Stella's was the Greek place. That was really
Okay, Stella's. Oops, we can't mention that because they have a Greek restaurant.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. We're all good.
But yeah, no, we'll go, and we just have, to me also, judging by my weight, yes, and the way I was brought up, at a table is where everything happens.
Yeah.
You laugh, you can get upset, you share things, you catch up on things, you plan for the future. So to me, growing up, it was like that because all three of us not three of us, I had an aunt on the corner and her husband who had a big field between the houses, and then another aunt and Uncle Charlie, and then a good friend from I think it was Kansas, and then we lived. So it's almost like the first three houses we were all Langels or Garrigers or something like that, and we all the kids all together. We'd be it kind of like old world, old USA type, flying the flag things. And that's how my life has I always strive. Sit down at the table or go with, and that's where things happen. And that's what I love.
And you know what, Paul, I get that. And I knew that from breaking bread with you, but think about it from Kyle Kowalski's perspective, right? His life was fractured at age 9, Maya's at age 11. They did not spend their preteen and teen years doing kid stuff and going to circuses. So you know what? Out of the kindness that you and Yoli offered them a couple of weeks ago, they got to sit in a hot, sweaty tent, and it was hot and sweaty because they were sitting right underneath the lights. They were practically in the circus ring, right? But what you gave them was a night to be kids. And they haven't had a chance to do that very much. And so I don't want you to listen. I know that the two of you are very modest people. I don't want you to underestimate the value and positive impact that act of kindness provided to a family that I consider all American, but only if all American families go through a ridiculous journey. But that was incredibly kind of you to do that. And I know that everybody had a blast.
Very good. That makes us
Yeah. It was
feel real
very,
good.
very kind of you. I do want to get to, there was a question raised by Michaela Haney earlier, and Michaela, thank you for asking this. Did the witnesses not have to watch the trial? Michaela, I actually was allowed to watch the trial because I was an expert witness, not a fact witness. So I was allowed, along with the other expert witnesses, I was allowed to sit in the courtroom for any part of it that I wanted to, for which I wasn't asked to step outside, which did happen on a couple of occasions, particularly when they were trying to throw me off of the out of the testifying. But if you were a fact witness, you were not allowed to be anywhere near the trial. You waited out in the hallway. The only exception to that was the hospital, because of its corporate structure, had to have a corporate representative in the courtroom each day sitting at counsel table. And so you saw Dr. Tepa Sanchez, you saw Dr. Smith, you saw several of the folks who testified, but then were also in the room for a day at a time or a couple days at a time as corporate representatives. So yeah, so that's how it worked. And again, I never knew that, but because I was an expert witness, I was allowed to stick around, as were the other experts. And Charlie Lynn, again, thank you very much for your support and your super sticker. And because of what you do with providing memberships, welcome to Caroline Brownset, who's a new YouTube member today. So thank you for joining us. Guys, I don't know how much more time. I've already taken you over the hour that I promised you we would keep it to. But if you've got,
to you, you're at the
Keep
helm.
us until we bore you.
well, I can't keep you here until Friday. So yeah. But I think that, you know, what I want you guys to hear is, and I know if you're inclined, you can go back and you can read the read the comments as they go through. But you know, it's really remarkable that you know, again, how much love and support there is for the two of you, for everything that they put you through, for everything that, you know, listen, you guys were doxxed. Your home address was published, for I think 5 or 6 days before it finally got corrected. You know, and that shouldn't happen. I mean, Yoli, I'm going to ask you. I would imagine that you had concerns about your personal safety.
Yes, I did, and the safety of other parties that were brought out as well. Because more of my life with my kids and all that was brought out.
Yeah.
So there was certainly, and as well as to the other party involved with Paul, she was also concerned about her safety. And the funny thing about the whole situation is that his ex-wife and I are really good friends. And so we all got together. Yes, dear. So we all actually got together in November, and you know, we're a very blended extended family, and we all love each other. But you know, she too was like, wow, you know, they put my information out there too. It was really crazy.
Yeah, because they went after anything and everything.
Yeah.
And you know, these are people that
had nothing,
I mean,
whatsoever.
For a long time, we go up, you know, like Tennessee, which is the area we go to, and they live, and one of our sons and one of my, I guess you'd call him an ex stepson, but I was just talking him today, as a matter of fact. And we'll go. We have usually during Thanksgiving, we have our Christmas Thanksmas neat years. You know, 3 things sometime in November, early December, and we're all sitting there taking up a couple tables and driving the poor
Yeah.
restaurant people crazy with our order and blah blah. But you know, that's kind of how it is, how we are, how we roll, type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Well, Paul, Melanie Schuyler has a suggestion for you to write a book called Jury Duty. It doesn't suck after all.
Oh, well, until you get to the food during deliberations, they kept ordering from some God knows sub place, and we were saying, "Oh, should we just DoorDash our own food?" You know, so I don't know if it was Judge Carroll's decision. Well, let's try a little better next time. But we had pizza.
Yeah.
Do you think they just order us like 2 pizza pies? No, one, 2 slices per person. Just give us a pie and a thing and have fun. And no, no.
As you can see, food.
It's all about the
It's all about
food.
the food.
Although compliments to Judge Carroll, he did supply us with donuts, so that's close to my heart.
Nice.
And
Nice.
bagels in the morning. So yeah, and so I'll take back all the stuff I just said about you, Judge. Okay. No. Like I said, I think he's a good sport, and he learned to accept me as I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you expect, or even in your, when I'm sure as in your role as a police officer, you went to court from time to time, whether it was traffic or an investigation or, of a more serious crime. But did you, I mean, I really was struck at the almost casual conversation that the jury exchanged with Judge Carroll. I was really, really surprised by how friendly he was towards the jury and how, I don't want to say accommodating, he was thoughtful about what the jury needed.
I think in our case, he was more than thoughtful.
Yeah.
He knew he probably, 12 people, and I'm sure I stuck out. It's just not something I try to do. It's just the way
yes, he does.
No, he knew that I was the
troublemaker,
numbnut or something. And I tried to keep it low key, but put it this way, if you're ever at a party, I have no fear of getting up and talking about or acting, dancing with a lampshade on my head, even when I'm not drunk, because it's just something, I like to make. I should be a clown in the circus is what I should be.
Paul, I did not pick up on like filter being part of a big part of your persona. Not a lot of filter there, buddy.
Yeah, I say I raise it up the flag, and if someone salutes it, I've made it. If not, well.
Dr. Joe, let me just tell you a couple of things. For example, today he goes, "Let's walk away." So when the camera comes up, there's nobody there.
I said, "Oh, Leah, let's disappear," and that way, when you put us in, it's just the background. And then I was looking, is there a button where we can rotate it so we're upside down?
There you go.
And I was gonna say, and you say, "Oh, wait a second, there's something wrong." I said, "No, we're broadcasting from Australia down under."
That's it. Well, I've practiced my bird shadows. I can.
But that's the kind of guy he is. I mean, he's. One time, our daughter. We went to visit our daughter when she was working, and he gets her keys and moves her car. And when she gets out of work, she thinks someone's. I mean, he does things like that to my daughter. It's like, oh my God.
So,
anyways.
There's a couple of questions, and again, I want to be very respectful of your right to deliberate privately as a jury. But were there witnesses that helped you land on your ultimate verdict? Were there witnesses you thought, wow, there's credibility? And were there other witnesses that you thought, do they believe what they're saying? Where I know most witnesses kind of fall in the middle. It's a bell-shaped curve. But who are the folks at either ends that thought really brought it, and those that really left it at home? And again, if you're not comfortable answering it, feel free to take a pass.
I'll say that there were more witnesses on the JHACH side that their testimony I couldn't give probably the weight to it that Shapiro and
Hunter
wanted it to have.
Yeah.
Especially after some follow-up questions from the jury, whether it was mine or someone else. I mean, there was people asking questions that, ooh, that's right. That's a good question, And so I would say, won't name any names of who. Well, one name, whoever the JHACH accountant lady was for billing or something. Or no, for tax. She's the one that I felt was reading her computer screen during her testimony, and someone was coaching her or something.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, strangely enough, in high school and then college, I wanted to become an accountant. And I was heavy into the accounting classes. And some of the stuff they were asking her is just basic ledger stuff, basic tax returns that most people, even, without a small business, but maybe investments, should know. But she kind of didn't. It was almost like, this lady, you know your stuff.
Yeah.
She should have known her stuff, and she didn't. She was like, and trying to, I swear she was probably reading something on her computer because you could see her eyes going, type thing.
Yeah.
So whoever that was definitely was an epic fail.
Understood. Understood. Yeah, there were a lot of there were a lot of folks on different channels that I've listened to, kind of called that out as an unusual presentation. Seemed like there was more to it than meets the eye. Michaela Haney asks again. Hold on, let me pull this up for you. She wants to know what you thought of the version of Dr. Sally Smith that you saw on the depot videos versus the one that showed up in person.
The in-person one, from what I recall, was much more presentable than the one that was recorded from earlier.
Yeah, I think she gave 3 or 4 different depositions.
Yeah, basically her recorded depositions seemed to be a little bit more snarky, abrasive, matter-of-facto, and why am I going through this? In person, she was more personable, and she would look at the jury and look at and we still wondered why she came in with like a 3-foot stack of files and plopped them all down, when she couldn't use them unless she got it, presented it to both the defense and the plaintiffs and the so it's
Yeah.
not like she could refer to it. We learned
Yeah.
because other people, oh, you can't, you have to close that, or can you read it, put it down, and then answer the question?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was we once we were deliberating, we kind of all, what was that about?
Well, but you'll remember that there was a plaintiff's witness who brought a binder, and got into trouble for it. But the interesting thing is, I had seen how much grief they gave Dr. Kirkpatrick for not bringing any records, and during the deposition, I had gotten attacked for not having everything written out in front of me. So that's when I put together the binder of what I, kind of the key documents that I thought would be, that I would want at my fingertips. I was so clueless about what was in bounds and what was out of bounds. It was kind of a learn on the job thing. So I hope that I didn't frustrate the jury too terribly too much with that. But yeah, no, I at least, unlike the IJ documents, I did get my binder back. So yeah, that was a
question. Didn't ask, and have you seen the proper of Sally Smith? I think when she was there testifying that while we were either at lunch or sent back. And I learned it's called a proper. Is that what it is?
Proffer, Proffer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Where she was like doing a deposition of some sort. I remember seeing that. We had like, once I was released, it was like the weekend, and we were just like, Yoli was showing, this, because I never heard of Law Tube, only like when they televise, I think it's what, Law and
Crime.
No, Law and Crime,
Yeah.
you see like Johnny Depp or OJ Simpson in the old day. So she's showing me, this and that, and look at this. Wow. I'll tell you what, Sally Smith really thinks the world of herself. It's like she was saying,
filter Paul.
It was all her. No, I'm the one who's responsible. Or, it's like, wow, okay. Put it this way. If we would have seen something like that during trial, we would have told the judge, wait a second, can we talk? Or, it's over.
Yeah.
I was so surprised. And, that, wow, she really is firm on her belief that she can sniff out badness type thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways.
There was a question asked. It's been asked 2 or 3 times in the live stream chat. It was asked in the last 36 hours as well. And I know the answer. And that is that you have, in fact, gotten together with at least some of the other jurors and some of the alternates. After the experience you'd just been through, I would imagine that was a little bit more like a family reunion than you expected.
Yeah. Where was what, about 3 weeks after, I think? What do you think?
Maybe
3 to
2
4?
weeks. Maybe
2 weeks. Okay, quicker. We met at a restaurant down there in Venice, and I don't know how many were there.
6.
There were 6 of us.
3 alternates and 3
jurors. I thought there were more. Yeah, a few of us. Some of us had some of them had already like left up. They had Thanksgiving plans and stuff, so they were heading. Seems like everyone's from up north, except like me and Yoli, who are from down south or South America type thing. But yes, we did have a dinner and talked a little bit about the case, but mostly more about what we were doing now and getting back to and who we were going to see, for Thanksgiving, because that was coming up.
Were there any hard feelings among the alternates that they sat through everything that you sat through and didn't even get to vote?
Let's see. they weren't like upset and wielding a machete, but they, oh man, because I wanted this and I
Yeah.
needed this and that. But they were like, wow, that was such a letdown,
Yeah, I'll
because you
bet.
spend all that time and all of a
Sure.
sudden, bam, you're asked to get up and gather your stuff.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That must have been I will tell you that I would have been kicking and screaming as they were hustling me down the hallway and out the back door. I'm like, I just gave you 2.5 months of my life.
Right.
And again, it was because of the intensity and the duration. I mean, Paul, there's to sit through 8 or 9 weeks of anything, let alone, I mean, as you saw, and as many of us have seen from watching the videos, not everything in court is as exciting as an episode of Law and Order, right? There's a lot of boring stuff that takes place, and you guys hung in. All 12 of you did, right? But only
Yes.
6 got to vote.
Well, yeah, only one left because they got a dental
last minute,
issue.
yeah. But even he was there until just a couple of days
Yeah,
before.
I think it was
2 days,
1
3
day
days before deliberation.
deliberation.
Yeah. Well, guys, I have had you for much longer than the hour that I told you I would try to keep it to, but we've had so many questions and so many.
Well, you got
great
some
comments
questions? Bring them on.
Yeah,
Or-
well, I've been trying to I'm trying to answer them as they've been coming through, just to keep everybody up to speed. And Michelle Gullo, I see your message, and I did send you back an email about arachnoiditis, and what I can and what I can't do to help you with that. But check your inbox. You should have the answers, or at least a preliminary answer there. But guys, I just want to say thanks. It's been great hearing from you, great talking with you. I hope that I've given the advocates and the recovery addicts that are in the audience today a glimpse of who you are, who is behind the moniker of Juror 1 and Hippo Lover, because God knows, there were weeks at a time where basically you were reduced to a caricature. You were reduced to a character in a play. And what I have found in talking with each of you, and Yoli, I am looking forward to meeting you face to face, but in our phone conversations and in sitting with Paul a week or two ago at the restaurant, I've just discovered there's so much more to the two of you than was shared with, any audience, LawTube broadly. One of the things I wanted to point out, Paul, is you and Jack Kowalski both share one characteristic that in my mind is every bit as admirable as what you did for Kyle and Maya, and giving them that VIP experience at the circus. You and Jack are both the guys in your respective neighborhoods that other neighbors turn to when they need something fixed, when something ain't working. If you happen to live near Paul, or if you happen to live near Jack, have Toolbox Will Travel. You guys have been very generous with the people around you and supporting the people in your community. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Hey, I actually am getting not only questions, but questions in the chat, but I actually just got a text message from one of the mods and from my wife. So I have to ask. Here it is, Grass Folk. We want to know how Paul reacted to the wink. And I guess it was the head of revenue for the hospital. Was that something you noticed?
I didn't notice it myself because
Okay.
I'm really not looking at the guy. And frankly, in my experience, when a witness talks to the jury or answers questions, looks at the question from the attorney, and then goes like this and talks to the witnesses, I mean the jury, that's a turnoff. Yeah, that means they've been practiced. They've been instructed. Talk to no. He asks you the question, answer him. But anyways, that was brought to my attention.
Interesting.
During deliberations, and it was like the way the question was, and how he looked, because it was one of the questions that someone wrote on paper, correct? Yes. And that it was like, oh, someone caught me, like, or that's a damn good question. I thought that would have been over your head type thing. That's how when it was explained to me, yeah, someone asked this, the judge, and he turned and like, hot dog, I've been found out type thing. That's how I ended up interpreting, but I didn't see it.
You're funny.
Otherwise, I would have winked back.
I would put money down to have seen that. I tell you, I think that would have thrown his balance off quite a bit. But yeah. Was there anything that, if you could go back through those, I guess, 9 weeks, is there anything that you would want to experience a second time? I would imagine there's plenty of things that you're glad are over with, especially the allegations of jury misconduct, etc.
I think the best time had for me at the jury in the court was it Dr. Kirkpatrick?
Dr. Chopra?
Oh, Chopra. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Who had to have like a little money jar. Because remember what was that about?
They were asking questions.
Asking questions.
Yeah.
And he was a very, lighthearted and, so that was good. That was refreshing. Kirkpatrick, right? Chopra. Okay. And yeah, that's what I'd go through that in my dream, in dreams, because it was a good part.
One of the most amazing parts of the trial for me was something that I watched on my screen, and that was when the verdict was being read and the law and crime cameras spent 99% of the time on Maya's reaction. There was one time when she and her brother were absolutely fused. They were sitting practically inside each other's skin. They were so overwhelmed. And the way that Maya described it was, we finally felt like somebody had heard us, and there were tears everywhere. What were you, as the jury foreman, what were the other 5 jurors doing? How were you feeling? This is actually a question from Kate G 6029. What was the jury's reaction to Maya and her brother when the verdicts were being read out? And just broadly, how was the jury feeling, thinking, acting when the verdicts were being read?
I don't know how the others were, because again, I was like the first seat across from Judge Carroll, and they were all to my left. And I kept my eyes forward, kind of like I was sitting at attention, because I didn't want to make eye contact with the defense plaintiffs, only because I didn't want to show any emotion, which I believe I didn't. Now, I do know when we got back, because then we had to go back for punitive damage jury duty, deliberations. I know they all, I believe, expressed, that they felt relieved. They
Mhm.
felt, content with their decisions, the verdict.
All the members of the jury did.
Yes.
Great. Great. Yeah. Well, again, I think that I think one of the things that's amazing is that, that was not an easy jury form to work through. 44 separate questions and 44 affirmations that the family, as was said on another show, the hospital did the family dirty, and you guys really brought that home. There was no there 44 to nothing is a shellacking, right? And there was not a single element of the juror form where the 6 of you felt that the hospital had won that argument, right? And that was pretty overwhelming. And I will tell you, the interviews that I've seen Maya do, and she's only done a handful with Greg at her side, but she talked about being heard. She talks about the influence of her mother. And I will tell you, I have had a chance to meet Maya and Kyle and Jack very, very briefly. But, just like Nick referenced in his portion of the closing argument, I don't know that there is anything that the family wouldn't do to bring their mom back. $200 million is more than anybody most people would reasonably spend in 10 lifetimes. But I suspect they would bring it. They'd put the check, turn the check back in if it meant that their family was back together. So thank you for hearing Maya, for hearing Kyle, for hearing Jack. And thank you so much for spending so much time with us tonight, letting us know who's behind Hippo Lover and who's behind Juror 1. I think everyone here would agree that there's a lot more to the two of you than you were portrayed, certainly in the November, December, January timeframe. And I'm thrilled that, we've had an opportunity to meet again. Yoli, I'm looking forward to meeting you face to face. I may actually be down in Sarasota later this week. I will let you know. But the service that you have given not only to this community through your service as a juror and a jury foreperson, but also the service that you gave to the Miami-Dade community in your years in law enforcement in Hialeah. And the service that you provide to your neighbors by fixing their broken stuff. You live your life the right way, Mr. Langell.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Joe, we're meeting people. We went to the state fair in Tampa this weekend, and we stayed in an Airbnb, and the lady is actually getting ready to take her NCLEX to be a RN.
Right.
And she was sharing with us some of the, what she's going through as she's interning, and we had shared our experience. And it was very interesting to hear it from a nurse's perspective, that how she does sometimes see some nurses cutting corners. And when you're a new nurse, you're really, focusing on everything, right?
For
and
sure.
So she was very interested. I was telling her about your advocacy, your advocates, and how you're trying to open eyes to people to be advocates for others. And it was we had a very interesting conversation. She's has seen and experienced some things that just really open your eyes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And,
and yet,
as my,
and yet, she is going to. I told her just like police and all first responders and nurses. And doctors.
yeah.
Very, very valuable. And it's all it takes is just a few, but the majority of
Yeah.
them are very loving and kind. And that's what she said. She promised the Lord she was going to do this. And she's 50 years old. And here she is. She's going to do this.
Wow.
And I'm like,
That's
wow.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
she
amazing.
started a new career.
Yeah.
Now,
Wow.
also about this lady, like I said, we stayed at her Airbnb. We like to, rather than go to the big hotels, we like to support, the local people. And it was a great Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in her experience, I'm going to go, and you correct me, Yoli. She knows
It's a friend.
a friend. He was 15 or
Yes,
he's 15?
he's
He was 15. How did he hurt his head?
He was in an accident and was comatose.
They had to do something with his brain.
Mm.
And he was let me explain it.
Okay.
He was actually they were going to pull the plug. This was a friend, her and her friend, this was her friend's son. And he had been comatose for over a month. And she and her friend, they prayed. And this is what made her become a nurse. She's like, Lord, if you help pull this through, I will dedicate my life to helping others. And he came to.
Something in the middle.
What?
As the boy was comatose, although he couldn't move or anything, he could hear.
Wow.
That was after, though. That's what I was going to explain. When he came back, he told them.
Yeah, no, he could hear.
Yeah.
While he was in his coma. And he could
Wow.
hear how the nurses, what they were talking about in front of him.
Wow.
And about, they should just pull the plug.
Yeah.
They should, and being snarky and, and when he came out of it, that's what he was telling this lady who's we met.
Right.
And the mother. And that's what turned her. But we'll go on.
No.
Okay. But we were thinking, we had mentioned, you and your advocates, and she told us, we're open. And so was the young man. He's about, 20 something now?
He's 21 now.
21 now. If you possibly wanted to have an interview with them, we'd put them in touch with you. So if that's something up your alley, or, you want to see how that went, and, what he has to say, and, because like you say, even when I've been on as a police officer on scenes or guarding somebody in a hospital, that was, let's say, beaten, and they want to make sure that nothing. Yeah, always got to be pleasant or go in and greet. And what this young man went through was horrific.
Yeah.
Type thing. So
let's talk more about that offline. Before I let you go, is it okay if I share the photograph, Yoli, that you sent me on Saturday of you and your
Absolutely.
All right. So this is the best I can do, folks. I apologize. There's Paul and Yoli and a sea lion. This is the life that these people live. They don't miss an opportunity to have fun with each other, to have fun with life. You guys have been through plenty of serious in November, December, and January especially. But I'm thrilled where the two of you are as a couple, where you are as a family. And really, you're just great neighbors. And I can't thank you enough for being a part of this tonight. Before I let you go, Paul, I do want to share an image of why I'm wearing this shirt tonight. You inspired me with your dapper looks on the.
Busy.
Yeah. I tried, buddy. I tried. I just,
I'll have to come out with my own Juror 1
That's right.
wardrobe.
That's it. That's it. That's it. You inspired me and you challenged me, and I cannot thank both of you enough. I look forward to getting together, getting some FaceTime when I'm down in Sarasota the next time. But thank you so much. Paul and Yoli, I will not call you by those nicknames that everybody learned you by, but thrilled that you were here.
Yeah, and I've
thank
changed
you
my
so much
name on all these YouTubes to Paul-J1 instead of all that gobbledygook.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Guys,
All right,
thank
but
you
it's
so
been a
much. And
pleasure.
Paul, thank you for
Thank
your
you.
service. It was
Thank you, everyone.
fantastic.
Everybody have
Yes,
a good
indeed.
night. Have
All
a good
right.
night.
Take care. And let me see. So, Michaela, I saw your super chat about asking about Mr. Shapiro's closing argument. I actually spoke with Paul about that earlier, and we decided that that was a topic that he did not want to share his opinions about. So I did not overlook your super chat. It was just on our no-fly list. So my apologies for that. See, I got to channel my inner Judge Carroll and decide which questions come in and which can't be asked. So Michaela, I apologize for that, but we wanted to keep that topic private for now. So I think you all will agree that they're a very interesting couple. They found each other, kind of later in their adulthood, and they are just acting like teenagers. And I'm so, I've really enjoyed hearing about them. And getting to know a little bit about them since the verdict was delivered and since the jury interview took place. I had never met Paul until after all of that wrapped up, but fascinating guy. And it turns out we went to the same high school. Now he's younger, but his brother, I think, was a year ahead of me, if I'm not mistaken. But super nice guy. He went to St. John's in Hialeah, which is where many of my closest friends growing up. I lived in Miami Lakes, which is the next community over. A lot of my friends went to St. John's, where he went to school, and we all ended up at Pace together. So kind of neat when you have so much common overlap. And actually, one of the guys from my circle of friends ended up being on the force with Paul when he was in law enforcement in Hialeah too. So kind of cool, but good people, and the kind of neighbors that honestly they're the neighbors you can count on, which is not the most common commodity these days. So hold on to people like that. So again, I hope that you have a little bit more of an understanding of who these folks are and the sacrifice that they both put themselves through. Very different circumstances, but it's one thing for a juror to be subjected to everything that Paul was subjected to. It's another thing for a spouse or a partner to be subjected to that. It's a whole different level of something when they go through that based on allegations, not facts. And I think that if you go back and watch the January 3rd interview and that entire hearing in Judge Carroll's courtroom, Paul was exonerated. Paul was recognized as a guy who did the right thing and did it the right way. If you read what Judge Carroll has to say about his confidence that Paul executed his role the right way, go reread his orders and his answers to motions. He says, I sat 5 feet from this guy for 9 weeks. And not only did he not do anything that approached misconduct, but he did things the right way. It was an absolute endorsement. I called it a love letter in one conversation. It was almost a love letter to the work that the jury did, and including Paul. The jury had a very tough challenge. They executed it at a very high level. So I was really excited to bring them to you tonight. Thank you for being a part of it. And thank you for being a part of this. Again, we're growing. I am starting to have more and more conversations that go beyond the trial. Believe me, there's still plenty to talk about with the trial, still plenty of people to bring in and have those conversations with. But what I'd like to do is start to get out to like the second and third ring of the orbit, and bring you guests that are can bring a perspective that's relevant to what we've been discussing, but not necessarily just tied to the Take Care of Maya trial. We'll be doing that next week, at least once, if not twice. We'll be back here on Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for the folks who responded to the polls. It looks like 6 o'clock is a better solution. 12 is better for some, but the minority. Who knows? Maybe we'll bounce back and forth. Maybe we'll go crazy and throw in a weekend episode from time to time too. I am grateful for the support that you're giving to me and to others who come and sit with me to talk with you. This is a fascinating experience for me. I'm growing from it, and again, I can't say enough about the support that I get from you, especially when things are a little rough. But I promised you February was off to a better start than January, and so far so good. So Thursday, 6 o'clock Eastern time. Don't forget to hit the like button. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. I would love to get to 11,000. We're so close. And again, if you can share the word, I appreciate that Yoli told that new 50-year-old nurse about this channel and the good that we're trying to influence and impact in her world in healthcare, in our world in healthcare. So please like, subscribe, and let's share the word. And most importantly, folks, let's take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. That is our ultimate challenge here. So be good to yourselves, be good to one another. Thanks very much. I'll see you all soon. Thursday night, 6 o'clock. I will tell you without hesitation, I will tell you that I did not have this anywhere in my 5-year plan, Mr. Anderson.
That much I believe. Yep.
Well, thank you, everyone. Make sure that you take care of yourself so that we can be taking care of others. I'll look forward to seeing you in the coming days. Again, Kurt, Jules, thank you so much for making this a very dynamic conversation today. I'm grateful for your help.
Oh, kill me now. Please tell me this guy's doing some fraud and there's going to be like an insurance investigator or something.
So, Fred, thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for sharing your insights and your experience, and can't wait to bring you back, my friend.
I'm looking forward to it. You won't have to try hard. This was a lot of fun. So thank you, everybody.
You hear that? I get the rest of the day off from doctor's orders. That's what I hear.
I will write that prescription anytime for you, sir. And, this will not be our last conversation, especially if you can get me Samantha Lawrence on the show.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll see you before the hearing next week. But thank you for the honor of being your first guest, Joe. And
you bet.
All the kind words. Appreciate it.
Please, let's make sure that we take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. Thank you so much.